recap for the second week of December. What do we expect going into the week? Let's start on dollar. We were looking for bearish week on dollar. We did get that. I had outlined in my outlook that we have like this weekly bearish breaker and bearish order block, right? Kind of lining up around CE of this inverse gap. So that's a very, high probability tag there that we, or like bearish PD array cluster maybe is the right word, for a continuation lower going into the week. Monday, Tuesday, we get that run higher into that before mentioned weekly PD array cluster, as well as this daily bearish for value gap, where we actually run up into this liquidity void that is sitting in between these two candles, right? We fill that, and then from there on Wednesday, with the FOMC release, we get a huge bearish move beforehand already too, actually on Wednesday, but FOMC as well. And then a continuation on Thursday, which reaches into our drawn liquidity for the week, which was this daily swing low that I had mapped out. And then today is just a pretty standard kind of like Friday consolidation, right? It's like the portion of like when we're thinking of open, high, low, close, right? We open, let's take this daily candle here, for example, right? That's what Friday is to the weekly candle here is, we can actually just map it out here right quick, right? We open Monday here, we put in a high here, we put in a low here, we put in our close here, and this is just the weekly wick forming. That's why often Friday will kind of oppose what the week has done, especially if it's a big expansion week and we've hit a target like this daily swing low here, then that oftentimes will kind of happen. So yeah, we didn't quite reach down into this swing low, but for now we hit that one, and now we have two fresh daily gaps, one of which is formed and the other one will form once the daily candle here tithers. No, that's not the right word. Just ends, fizzles out. That's what I was trying to say. There we go. All right, so moving on to the majors. Bullish week on pound, bullish week on euro, a little more bullish on euro than on pound, and let's dig into this. So going into the week, right, we were looking for higher prices on euro and this daily gap here to kind of provide that, right, which maps or tracks with the daily gap on dollar that we were also looking at. So yeah, start the week, we dig down into that daily gap, right? Monday, Tuesday, pretty wicky, pretty choppy, and then Wednesday we have a big bullish candle, BBC, you know what I'm saying? And then the same goes for Thursday, and then Friday we have kind of more that consolidation day, just essentially what dollar did, right? Just reversed. Pound slightly different, right? Monday, Tuesday a little less bearish and a little less choppy, kind of more concise, a little more tight. Jesus Christ, what is with the words today? And then Wednesday, Thursday we have much less of a expansion, and then this corresponding buy side for the one I just marked on euro, I'm pretty sure at least, yes, does not actually even get hit on pound. So that is something to note. Now, what is also something to note is weekly gap on pound, right? Formed one right here. And we also have a weekly gap on euro. If my eyes don't deceive me, yes, but it's much smaller. So definitely something to keep watch of for next week at least. And then I guess the other thing is we've got a bunch of daily gaps formed here on euro, and pound didn't really get that. So slightly, stifled rally in pound and a slightly more energetic one in euro. It's kind of what we saw throughout the week. Where once again both majors kind of just the week was pretty simple, right? It was like chop Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday with FOMC distribution, and then Thursday continuation, and then Friday consolidation, because the week had essentially already concluded. But yeah, let's move on to indices now. Indices, weekly candle. What were we going into the week? We were bullish. Now we do have a tiny, like 1 tick weekly gap on ES that I had also mentioned. Now this obviously isn't it marked out perfectly, but it's in there. We did not actually reach into that, right? Previous week low is still intact. Jeez, I can't actually hit anything here with my mouse. Okay, so what do we have on indices? Now, what I will say to this is we had consolidation. And then a big drop today. Like a big drop today. So, yeah. What was my target going into the week? Funnily enough, it was this buy side that lies essentially in this daily gap, right? Like, yeah, to me, I guess you could also just say the daily gap was my draw. And yeah, we ended up not actually reaching into it. We came close once, twice, 3 times, 4 times on 4 different days. The first one being last week Friday, so I guess that doesn't really count. But yeah, we don't end up actually reaching into it. And then today we faded that and dropped lower. So I guess in theory, my expectation of bullish weekly candle on NQ could be judged as incorrect. Now, do I think that a bullish bias is incorrect? No, I don't. And I think this is just one of the cases where, yes, it's bullish, but just because high time frame is bullish doesn't mean there can't be a bearish week or a bearish day or a bearish, whatever. Like, there's always going to be bearish movements within a bullish movement. At least most of the time. Obviously, sometimes there's like pretty pure angles, so to speak. Anyway, yeah. I mean, like, from a fucking swing trade perspective, this was just like, yeah, sit and watch. Probably don't even watch, because honestly, since it was consolidating, I was just like, all right, if it ever displaces, I'll see that at the end of the day, and I won't pay too much mind otherwise. That kind of sums up NQ for this week. So the bonds, I guess we can talk about bonds real quick. They'd been so bearish, and then coming into the week, we got a bearish continuation on bonds Monday, Tuesday, which essentially coincides with what dollar and pound were doing, right? On Monday and Tuesday, where they were dropping lower into those daily gaps. Digging into those daily gaps twin. And then Thursday or Wednesday we rallied, right, with FOMC matching what the majors did. Thursday we got a continuation, which then ended up actually retracing all the way back down within the same day. So slightly weaker than like what the majors are showing, for sure. And yeah, I mean, that sums up bonds basically. Moving on to metals. Gold, we were watching if this daily gap that we had been in last week already is going to actually end up providing some upside. And especially more than that, we were watching if, while we were still chopping around there, if we'd make the extra drop into the weekly gap on gold. Spoiler alert, we did not drop into there, but we did get a bullish week, so I guess right on that extent. Same with silver, bullish weekly candle, but no bullish weekly key level hit. And then, yeah, I mean, silver, pretty simple, right? Consolidate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we distribute higher, and then Friday we retrace back into the weekly range. Gold, essentially the same, right? Monday consolidation, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, higher prices, and then just a little more different was that today gold was a bit more bullish than silver, maybe a kind of trade-off of relative strength that we might be seeing. Yeah. Also, when it comes to silver, since obviously it's in a daily gap right now, there is nothing from that yet, right? We just got the drop, and then since then we've been consolidating. But that's definitely something for next week to potentially drop down here, push up here, retrace to here, push to here type deal, potentially, right? So yeah, we definitely have a bunch of key levels in metals again, right? We've got some pretty clean price action to higher prices, so to speak. That potentially we might be able to engage with in the coming times. That sounds so like official, but yeah. Anyway, I guess that's a recap. Spot on gold, spot on silver, spot on majors, spot on dollar, and then indices not really because they just kind of consolidated. So I'm not gonna give myself that, but analysis wise, that was a pretty expected week, I guess. I felt it delivered a bit choppy, but yeah, and I mean, like with gold and silver, like they delivered higher prices, but they didn't do it in a way where like it was valid to trade it for my model. So, for now we were just kind of sidelined, sitting and waiting, and then I actually took a loss this week, which was my only trade, longing pound early in the week. And then it ended up like essentially just delivering off of FOMC, where there's not really any opportunity to get involved, and there also was not like a good setup pre FOMC to position myself, right, which would have also been valid for my trade model, like maybe even like a Tuesday entry and then hold overnight into FOMC. That would have played out beautifully, but there was no valid entry there. But that's how it goes sometimes. So, all right.